All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the XO Nation, and to each and every one of you, a very happy New Year. Wow, where did the year go last year? It seems that it was just January the 1st, 2023, and bang, here we are, January the 2nd, 2024. Well, to each and every one of you, the very best of the new year. Health, happiness, love, spirituality. May you each be blessed with everything good in life, and together, well, I believe that we can all make a positive difference in this world of ours. So once again, a very merry past Christmas, and of course, a very happy New Year. I'm Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And the X Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. until midnight, right here on Classic 1220, streaming around the world at classic1220.ca. And if you'd like to send me an email, my email address is xzone@classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of having on the show before, but it's been a long time since my good friend Jock Brocas has been with us. And Jock, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Oh, thank you, Rob. It has been. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since the last. This is my third appearance on the X Zone, so I'm really delighted to be back with you guys and getting into another conversation.
Well, we're glad you're with us, Jock. Tell me, did you have any New Year's resolutions this year?
Well, you know what? Here's a massive resolution. In 23, I unfortunately nearly went into a glycemic coma.
Oh my God!
And had a bit of a fright, and so I decided that I was going to change my life from there on in. And obviously I'm ex-military, so I put my military head on,
right,
and decided that I was not going to go down the route of killing myself. And my choices had led me there, and I decided to get fitter. So I beat diabetes too. In 2023, I reduced my weight by 65, nearly 70 pounds.
Wow.
I did it all naturally. I did it without taking any drugs or anything else. And so my aim for 2024 is to keep that motor running.
Well, good for you, my friend. And man, if anybody can do it, you can. I know your determination. I know your tenacity. And like I said, if anybody can do it, you can. And congratulations on all the accomplishments that you had in 2023, buddy.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a major one. Besides everything else that I've been doing, I think we often take our lives for granted, and it just takes the universe to come and kick you in the backside and say, Jock, you got a choice. You either keep going down this road or you can change. And so I opted for the good way out. So. I think everything else takes a sideline to that.
I agree, my friend. You're an expert in the paranormal, grief and grieving, afterlife, parapsychology, and many other topics. But for the listeners who may not have had the opportunity of hearing you the last time you were with us here on the X Zone, tell us about yourself. Who is Jock Brocas?
Well, I'd like to use the word a young man because I still feel that way now, but hailing from the north of Scotland. And I've always had, as you know, Rob, I've always had a very spiritual outlook ever since I was a young kid. I wanted to be a Catholic priest. I spent my time in the monastery with my uncle who was a monk, and I spent a lot of time there, indoctrinated in dogma, but there was always something there that kind of made me think differently and made me act differently. And so as I moved through my life, I had many, many different paranormal experiences and decided that it was time for me to investigate those experiences. And then, of course, I've been a professional medium now for over 2 decades. I write for many, many different international magazines on the paranormal and on spirituality and parapsychology. And as you know, I've written a number of books, and probably one of my books that caused the most stir was in the field of demonology and the dangers of the afterlife, being deadly departed. So I have a thirst for wisdom and knowledge, and to try and bring that to the masses in a easily digestible format, so they can understand a lot more about the afterlife, a lot more about the paranormal, and also the dangers of the paranormal, as we've spoke about before. So now I'm trying to bring science and spirit together. That's my kind of new direction.
What was it that happened in your life that put you on the quest, on your never-ending journey to further investigate the paranormal as well as demonology and all the other fascinating topics that you look into? What started you off, Jock?
I think, as I can say, I often say to people, I never like to go back and say I had experiences when I was young. I was always psychic and things since I was younger. But I think it was going against the norm. The experiences that I was having that was kind of, like when I was in the monastery and I experienced, and I'd try and discuss it, the priests or the rector or the monks would say, well, we don't deal with that. And the other side, that's a dangerous thing. And Satan's out, is out roaming the world trying to get you. And I didn't conform to it. It didn't add up. And so my curiosity probably got the better of me. And I was, well, why? I was always asking why. Well, why? That doesn't make sense. It's the same thing, people will believe that Noah built an ark and took two of each animal, and I'd be the one asking, well, didn't the animals eat each other and start fighting each other? So I wanted to know why it would, and how did Moses part the Red Sea? So I wanted to know more about that. So
Certainly.
When they would tell me things were dangerous, so they would tell me we don't deal with those things and you can be duped. And that gave me the fascination to go deeper and to start to study it more. And then as I got on more in my life, the experiences that I was having, that kind of shook me. And I tell you, at one point, when my father had passed, and I met this woman called Rachel, and I'd gone up there to take a friend of mine to go and have a reading, and I was like, I'm not going in this. I don't believe in this crap. There's no chance. And even though I was kind of skeptical and had a spiritual upbringing, I still thought these things don't happen. And I'll never forget the day that she pulled me in and I says, I'm not going to go in and I'm not going to have a reading with you because I don't believe you're going to read cards and tell me my future. And she just absolutely blew me away. Unbelievable what she told me, things that she told me that could not have been known. It was like she knew my father more than anything. And then when she told me that I had this gift or this ability, that changed things for me, and she proved it to me, and that then sent me on an even deeper quest.
Jock, I know that you look at the paranormal and parapsychology with a scientific approach, and is it possible, Jock, that we blend science and spirituality together?
I would say it is possible, but it seems improbable at this moment in time because there's so many materialists, so many theorists. There's so much statistics and arguments between skeptics and everything else. One of my passions is to try and bring science to spirit and spirit to science, which is why, even though I've been a medium for over 2 decades, I wanted to understand the mechanics, and I thought, you know what? I can't go up against skeptics unless I know their argument.
That's true.
And I can't talk for spirit unless I know science. And I can't talk for science unless I know spirit. So let's go on a new quest. And so for the past couple of years, I decided to do that and see if I can make that bridge happen at some point. And so, I took on the opportunity to go down an academic route, go to university, study university, with a psychology degree, master's degree, and moving on to a PhD, so that I can hopefully build that bridge and maybe bring it. I think a lot of scientists really, really want to know more about spirit, and they're too frightened to do so. And I think if we can give them a safe bridge to do that, and a safe way of doing that, then there's a possibility that we could bring mainstream science into the realms of the spirit, and the spirit into mainstream science. And I think it can happen. I want it to happen.
Is there a difference, in your opinion, Jock, between spirit, as we talk about spirit within the realm of the paranormal, and now the new science of parapsychology, and the spirit that is talked about in religious philosophies? Or are they one and the same?
That's a great question, Rob. I would say, look, they're one and the same, but they've got different labels. And we tend to follow other people's expectations and perceptions.
Yeah.
And so one label might say, the Holy Spirit in the Bible, and it's in so many religious contexts. And then maybe in, parapsychology, we see this as a consciousness, a force of an animating force that we understand. That how we label that is different, but in reality, it's kind of the same. And so one of my biggest things, Rob, is that I believe our mind is the psychological building blocks of our reality, and that our brain is not the seat of consciousness. And so if we can start to bring that spirit into an understanding in parapsychology and mainstream science, then maybe one day we'll see that the same spirit we talk about in the Bible and the same spirit we talk about in parapsychology is one and the same.
What do you think it'll take in order for mainstream science, and just not science, I mean all the sciences, to start taking a very serious look at the paranormal and the claims that people from around the world are making? Like, all the people who, report paranormal activity, they can't all be suffering from one sort of psychosis or another. Isn't there enough evidence yet for mainstream science to say, hey, we need to take a look at this?
There is enough evidence. There's definitely enough evidence, but mainstream science doesn't do it because it doesn't conform to their perceptions or what they think is right. I mean, they tend to don't look at, for instance, a skeptical, a materialist scientist will often not look at the evidence that we have in parapsychology. For instance, some of the greatest evidence that we got in the parapsychology field has to be not so much mediumship, but in past lives and reincarnation. Some of the best evidence of the survival of consciousness is reincarnation. And so a lot of skeptics, a lot of scientists don't look at the evidence. They're too busy arguing statistics and meta-analysis for potential fluctuations and effect sizes, where we need to go way beyond that. We need to go to, start to move forward into experience and to have spontaneous evidential phenomena.
Jock, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our first break. Exonation, our guest this hour is Jock Brocas. Two websites, jockbrocas.com or evidentialmedium.com. I'm Rob McConnell. This is The X Zone. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on Classic 1220, your hometown radio, and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Send me your email, your thoughts, your questions. Very simple, xzone at classic1220.ca. Jock and I will be back on the other side of this short break. Don't go away. And once again, everybody, Happy New Year. And welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. We come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight right here on Classic 1220 and streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. Jock Brocas is my special guest. And Jock, in your opinion, what problems or what main problems exist in the paranormal field today?
Oh, well, for me and for what I've seen over the years is lack of education to the lay community or a wider public community. The problem is that when we have the parapsychology field and we have scientists and they're arguing amongst themselves, we have a massive problem in trying to develop funding to move on to new research or to fund new research. And I think the problem lies in not educating the public enough, not creating so much of a demand from the public's point of opinion. We need to get away from sensational paranormal type shows, sensationalism. They have their place, but we need to do a lot more with educating the public about what paranormal phenomena is and how it integrates, how psi, this idea of psi, integrates into our life and our everyday living. And how it's a natural, it's normal, not paranormal.
That is so true. So many people cannot wrap their minds around the concept that the paranormal is the normal.
Absolutely, it is so normal. And I think once we can explain to others, the phenomena, and also there's a lot of people that sensationalize a lot of phenomena that is really not paranormal and has got a natural cause for it. For instance, let's look at orb phenomena. Probably 95% of orbs or 99% of orb phenomena out there, there's a natural cause for it, and there's a natural explanation. Mm-hmm. But we sensationalize it. But then there's that 1%. There's that 1% that makes you go, wow, that has just broken the whole materialist assumption out of the window. That has gone beyond what science, there's intelligence behind this. And then we can investigate that further. We need to educate the public on, what is real phenomena and what is illusionary phenomena, what is ego, what is coming from, people that don't really understand it and claim that they do. I think if we start to educate the public a bit more, we'll create a greater demand for it and a greater demand for understanding it from a scientific point of view, and also bringing it into a natural element of life. People will not then be so frightened of it, and maybe they won't even dabble in it if they realize that there's some dangers as well.
What is your opinion about the paranormal TV shows that are out there, where, in my opinion, there's a lot of sensationalism that is put into the production? Now, massive problem. Yeah, go ahead, Jock. I'm sorry.
It is honestly, it's such a massive problem. It's sensationalized, and 90% of what they say is relatively not true. Even how they communicate, mechanics, their communication in the afterlife. And also, let's talk about this, Rob. You guys that are listening out there, there is not a electronic or app or any instrument out there that can tell you a ghost exists. Every single paranormal instrument that is out there, ladies and gentlemen, measures fluctuations in the environment. It can only give you a measurement of what is happening and give you a method, an idea of something that you need to investigate more. There is nothing out there that can tell you ghosts exist on your app, iPhone, or anywhere else. It requires a lot more than that. And maybe I hope that happens, but I don't see it.
Jock, what is your opinion then of EVPs?
I am very skeptical of EVPs because if there's an EVP that is going to blow my mind, I haven't come across it yet. I'm not an expert on it, and I know that there's many other experts beyond me that can probably blind me with the science of it. But I haven't heard anything that is blowing my mind. I often think of what they come out with is gobbledygook, and it doesn't make much sense. And you can make it sound, it's like pareidolia.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we see, we create images in them. And I think we do that with our auditory senses as well. So to this day, I haven't seen anything out there other than maybe some serious poltergeist investigation cases where there has been potentially very clear audible things that warrant investigation, but nothing that proves it. So I'm very skeptical of the EVP phenomena until there's more evidence from it. I'll still be skeptical of it.
In your opinion, Jock, where is the most amount of evidence that has been accumulated in any one field of the paranormal?
I would have to say it's got to be on afterlife research in terms of reincarnation. And I would say afterlife research into communication on the other side with verifiable evidence. I think there's more exciting research to be had. There's not a lot of research in psychometry, and I think that's a potential for exploration. I know that the University of Georgia, Christine Simmons Moore has been doing some research into that, but there's very, very little research in that type of field. So I think we need to do more with also trance and spontaneous phenomena. I know there's some researchers in Brazil that are kind of working on that now, and they're working on doing spontaneous phenomena in lighted situations. So that's exciting. So I think afterlife and intelligent communication from the other side with verifiable evidence has probably got the most evidence. And I think in parapsychology field has to be reincarnation. Reincarnation has probably got the strongest evidence that we've seen to date.
Jock, you mentioned psychometry a few moments ago. Could you explain to our audience what psychometry is?
So psychometry comes from the two words in Latin, psyche meaning soul and metri meaning measure, and it's a measurement of energy. So, for instance, with psychometry, people who are sensitive are able to hold an object and tune into the vibration of that object, and then perhaps get information from that, and be able to relay that information, and then to corroborate it utilizing their senses of clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, that kind of thing. So we have to understand that, there's a stone tape theory that's out there where energy gets imprinted into buildings and rocks and things like that, and we have residual energy that plays. And so someone who can psychometrize, maybe, being in an area, can pick up the vibrations of that area or the energy that's been imprinted into an object and then be able to read that. And I also believe that psychometry with a gifted individual can be a precursor and a catalyst to connection to the other side, to start maybe communicating to get more verifiable evidence. So we're talking about picking up energetic vibrations in objects and psychometrizing them.
Jock, why do you think that some people can tune into these various frequencies, whether it's clairaudient or clairsentient, or even the ability to seem to go back and forward in time in order to do some of these very questionable psychic experiences as well as psychic predictions? Why is it some people can do this and other people can't?
Well, it's great, Rob, because I have a saying that I use all the time, and I say to people, just because you can sing doesn't mean you can sing. So
I love it.
So kind of what I mean is that some person can sing and sound like Pavarotti, or can sound like Andrea Bocelli, and the other person can sing and he can't hold a note in a bucket, and he thinks he's the greatest singer going, but it really is so out of tune. So everybody in the planet can sing, but some people can really master that. And so whilst we all have an ability to be able to capitalize on our energy and capitalize on our own spirit, some people are more adept at things than others, and that could be through their experiences and also through transformational experiences. So some people can have transformations that come from trauma, and that can impact the way that their psychic faculties start to arise up in them. So and it's the same thing as you and I can play chopsticks on the piano, but your daughter might be able to play Mozart. She's more gifted, but we can still plunk a tune on the piano.
Yeah, well, you and I will have to go to a pub one night and try that, pal.
That would be good. We get the beer out and we'll start singing, and we'll see what can happen from there.
Is the paranormal field dangerous if you don't know what you're doing?
Absolutely, 100%. And I know people will hate me for this, and I've spoken about this in my book, Deadly Departed, many times. Yes, it is, because we don't understand enough about the field, and we're still learning. And some people do get into problems because they let their ego run riot. And you got to remember that if we do open up to something that's out there that is a greater intelligence than us, and that is a malevolent intelligence, you're going up against something you can't necessarily deal with. It's a lot more intelligent than you. And I could be talking in the realms of the demonic or the realms of the evil spirits. If you want to put that down to plain facts, I mean, there's thousands and thousands and thousands and millions probably years on you, and you don't think that they've got a mass intelligence beyond what you have in this material plane. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the reality is that evil exists in the world. We only need to look around and see evil in the world. But the thing is, it's necessary. We wouldn't know good if we didn't know evil. We wouldn't know pain if we didn't know health. It's a necessary thing.
I've always believed, Jock, that we live in a binary existence. 0 and 1. And the combinations of zeros and 1 create our existence, because for good, like you said, there's evil. Left, right, in, out, black, white, and the list goes on and on and on.
Absolutely.
So how do we take the knowledge we have right now, Jock, and apply it to paranormal, the parapsychology, to make it work better?
I think what we've got to do is to realize that it's not something that's intrinsically apart from us. It's something that is a part of us, and that the same animating force that animates the rose, that animates the wind to blow, animates us, and animates the spirit world, and animates spirits. And when we realize that we're not so far apart, we don't need to start looking at ourselves as something separate, but more as something that's more attuned to that exists in the same connected flow of everything. I think once we realize that, then we can maybe start to understand it better. Then we can maybe understand who we are and what our place is within this realm, and how we interact with that energy. And the power that we inherently have. Most people don't realize that their spiritual power is a lot more than they can even consider. It's a lot more that we don't even use half of our mind power that we've got. So I think we need to go back to basics, and we need to realize we need to get to understand who we are in our place in the world, and realize that the paranormal is normal, and that everything that exists around us is from the same animating force that is creation.
All right, stand by, my friend. Stand by, my friend. I've got to take my break. And Exo Nation, our guest this hour is Jock Brocas, JockBrocas.com or evidentialmedium.com. This is the Exo. I'm Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, it's very simple, exxon@classic1220.ca. Jock and I return on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Exo. I'm Rob McConnell, and we are with you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight, right here on Classic 1220, streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. By the way, you may have thought that was the Rolling Stones singing Honky Tonk Woman, but that was actually Jock and I the last time we got together at a pub.
You're sounding good. You're sounding good, Rob.
Why, thank you. I love the way that you play the guitar just like Keith Richards.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I practice a lot.
You mentioned demons in the previous segment. Are demons real, or are they a figment of our imagination imposed on us through the religious philosophies of the world?
Well, I would answer that question is the air that you breathe real? But you can't see it. And without it, you wouldn't exist.
Right.
So my answer to that is yes, 100% they are real.
Have you ever come across a demonic entity or some unknown force that people could relate by the movie The Exorcist, when Linda Blair's head started spinning and, the bed started jumping up and down? Or is that the sensationalistic aspects of Hollywood at their best?
No to the Hollywood effects, but yes, I have come across cases that have malevolent intelligences that have gone beyond the realm of science. And I've had experience of it direct myself. But I will say that if people are out there and they think that, dealing with demons is something that's easy, that's like The Exorcist, and they spin their heads around and vomit green pea soup, that doesn't happen. That's for the movies. But where you find most of the battle will go on psychologically in the mind. And then as it spills out into phenomena that's external to the individual, there can be phenomena that happens in the immediate environment that warrants investigation. But I've had experiences myself, and some frightening experiences at that. And here's the thing. Someone who's actually dealt in that realm won't normally just go out and shout about it around the rafters and talk about it and utilize it like it's a famous thing to deal with, or, hey, look at me. Because one of the things I'll say, anybody who has trod on that path, been and felt it, never ever forgets it, and it kind of scars you, and it's not something you go out and shout about and wear a badge of honor.
So how did you deal with it? You said that you had personal experience. How did you beat your demons, so to speak?
Purely prayer. There is nothing that's going to be. You can't run about with like I said in Deadly Departed. You can't run about with a woo-woo stick, and you can't run about with sage and incense and think that you're going to battle a malevolent intelligence that has, trying to get at you or obsess you in any way, just or holding a crystal and think you're going to banish them. That's for the movies. That's just, we're not playing in witchcraft and things in Hogwarts and stuff like that. That's just for entertainment. But really, the only thing that can seriously help you to deal with something like that is the power of divine power. And I put that down to prayer and knowing how to pray. And it's not just about saying words, and it's about transformation of your own spirit and being able to discern. That's one of probably the greatest gifts that anybody can have, is the power of discernment, to be able to discern. So I'd say how I dealt with it was purely through discernment and prayer.
Prayer to who? What kind of prayers?
Well, one of the things is, you're not going to just say prayers. For instance, a lot of people will say an Our Father, a Hail Mary, or and they don't necessarily. It doesn't necessarily do anything because there's no real divine vibration there. Whatever words that you say in a prayer can just be said glibly. You've got to bring your whole mind, your spirit, your soul, the whole thing together, and that sometimes is maybe bearing your fears and bearing your soul to a higher power and surrendering. So it's not just about the words that you say, it's about the feeling, the emotion, and bringing everything together. I mean, I remember at my time when I was going through that experience, I mean, I was on my knees crying my eyes out, and the pain that I was feeling in my mind was terrible. And it wasn't simple for me to just say Hail Mary and Our Father. I really had to go to the dark night of the soul and find the spark inside of me and really ignite that. And often it's at your lowest depths that you'll find the greatest light.
What is the power behind the prayer? How does the prayer actually get rid of the demon? You know, like
it comes down to divine law, Rob.
Well,
because you got to understand that, you know, we have laws in this world that you know, one state has a different law, or one country has a different law from another, and that's just man's laws. Man's laws really don't have any power over you. Divine law is how the universe operates. Divine law, like even a malevolent intelligence, has to come under divine law. There's a relationship to divine law, and so understanding the mechanics of divine law, understanding the relationship of these laws, helps you be able to deal with potential problems like that. And you got to remember that even a demon comes under divine law. It can't just break divine law and go and do whatever it wants to do. And just because then you'd have them roaming about the world and just taking over, obsessing people left, right, and center. It doesn't happen. There is laws that are into place in the universe that protect us, and they're still substitute. I mean, they still come under the same laws that we come under. The whole universe does. And so it's understanding the power of divine laws and understanding the power of the divine authority that I think is one of the keys.
The divine law that you talk about, is that the same divine law that is in the different religious philosophies around the world?
Yeah, you know, there's well, when it comes down to understanding divine law, people will say there's a law of reciprocation, there's a law of cause and effect, and that's a way of understanding it, but it can go even deeper than that. So as a simple example, the law of karma is the way that the universe operates, really. You know, and if you look at we're in a world of duality.
Yeah.
That duality is created by a karmic law, and the law of reciprocity, or the law of forgiveness, a divine law of forgiveness, it can't operate without any of the other laws. So it can't operate without a karmic law. None of these laws stand on their own. So they all have a relationship to each other. And whilst in a lot of, I try to keep away from religion, but in a lot of spiritual texts, there's an understanding of divine principles and divine laws. It's understanding how they interact with each other, and how I suppose it could be, even if you take it down to maybe molecular science and atoms, and how, when there's one downward spin, the atom, and I'm not a physicist, but it spins upwards, and there's no space and time. There's a distance between them. So there's a relationship. There's an integral relationship there between those two polarities. And so we understand that divine laws operate on the same relationship. They need a relationship to each other in order to operate.
We were talking about karma, and karma is even talked about in the Bible, in the Ten Commandments, where it says, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you," which is exactly the meaning of karma. So why is it that people still haven't caught on that there's a cause and effect, and if you're going to do something good, it works, it comes back to you, but if you do something bad, it's going to come back to you as well?
And Rob, that's a very simplified way of looking at karma, because everybody who looks at karma sees it, well, not everybody, but many people look at it, they say It's about what comes round goes around. You know, you give out good, you get back good. You give out bad, you know. That's just a simplified understanding of karma. Karma goes so much deeper. In actual fact, we don't exist without karma. Karma is integral in every aspect of our life, and every thought and every action. And it goes even beyond cause and effect. We only exist because of the karmic laws. And so, yes, we can understand it from a simplified idea. What you give out, you get back, or you sow seeds and you get them back. And that's mentioned in the Bible as well. But karma is how the universe operates. That's how we only exist because we exist in a karmic field.
How can we use karma, or not use it? Well, yeah, use it would be a good way of looking at it. Is karma part of what needs to be taught when it comes to the paranormal? Would you consider karma to be one of the utmost lessons that we need to learn in order to better understand the paranormal?
I would think karma could play a massive role in understanding our paranormal phenomena, or let's say our normal phenomena in the world of how we operate, how the universe operates, because it operates on a karmic principle. It's not just, like I said, it's not just simple as what you give out, you get back. So I think it's something we need to look at deeper into the causes and effects, even within parapsychology, and where karma is intertwined in that field as well. And I would say that anybody who's investigating the paranormal has to understand the karmic implications. There has to be balance. And when we create a wave and we have the upward wave and a downward wave duality, and it has to come into balance, and something that's out of balance has to come in. There has to be an element that brings that back, and that karmic effect. So whatever you do out there is going to have a karmic effect. You need to think about what you're doing. So let's take it for example.
All right, I'm going to have to hold you here for the example because I have to take our final break, Jock.
All right, go for it.
Fascinating topic, fascinating guest. Exonation, our guest this hour is Jock Brocas. JockBrocas.com and evidentialmedium.com are his websites. And you're listening to the X-Zone Radio Show right here on Classic 1220, streamed around the world on classic1220.ca. And if you'd like to send me an email, love getting your emails, X-Zone X-Zone at classic1220.ca. And here's Jock and I playing Honky Tonk Woman that you may have thought was the Rolling Stones. And yeah, well, it really is. We'll be back on the other side. Don't go away. And welcome back. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. And no, that was not Jock Brocas singing. That was Ringo Starr singing Photograph. And we're coming to you from the studios and corporate offices of Classic 1220, classic1220.ca. Jock, first of all, before we get back into the meat of the interview, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight. It means a lot. Over the years, you've been a great friend, and I want to congratulate you on all that you're doing and wish you the very best of luck in your continuing education in order to bring science and stability to the world of the paranormal.
Thank you, Rob. That means a lot. Thank you, and it's an honor to be on here again.
Well, it's not going to be such a long time as it was before, my friend. We're going to have you on quite often.
Awesome.
Let's get back to karma. Give me some examples.
All right, so let's talk about karma from a paranormal point of view.
Sure.
Let's say, for instance, we have a family who has been subjugated by a spiritual force, and that needs to be investigated. And there could be real phenomena there. We've got to understand that family is suffering psychologically. There's possibly psychosis involved. There's possibly mental imbalance involved. We need to be able to identify, the difference between what is possibly a mental imbalance from a medical point of view, or what has got a spiritual connotation to it. So then we bring in, and paranormal, they get called in, and all of a sudden the paranormal team's so excited because they think they've got a case, and then what they do is they immediately come in and say to the family, "You've got a demon," and it's starting to frighten the living daylights out of them even more. But we can help you deal with this. They're not even taking into consideration the karmic implications of what they're doing, and how there can be a massive imbalance and cause even more mental anguish and possibly worse psychosis. And they don't have any real way of helping that family, because they're so driven by their own egos. They're so driven by this whole sensational angle of it. So I think we need to have our paranormal investigators or paranormal teams identify what are the potential karmic implications of us, how we put this across to this family. And are we actually going to end up destroying that family we don't have any evidence phenomena being what they claim it is? And if we go in and start giving them false information, what are we going to do to a family? What are we going to do to them? What are the implications that could destroy this family because of what we are saying?
Yeah, and I really believe that there are a number of paranormal research teams out there that they honestly believe in their hearts of hearts they're doing something good, which in reality is they're causing undue problems with these families.
Absolutely. And you've got to think about how these families are suffering.
Yeah.
But if I ever get called into any potential cases, the first thing that's on my mind is not the phenomenon and what's happening. First thing that I want to know about is how are the family coping? What are they going through? What is the suffering and the level of suffering that they're going? Let me start from there.
Sure.
And then work towards understanding the phenomenon, what may or may not be happening.
When people who were paranormal investigators or psychics or mediums, when they try and bring people to the other side, go to the light, is that an actual thing or practice that they can accomplish, or is this just part of the mumbo jumbo of the paranormal?
It can be a bit of both, because I always say, look, if you don't have any evidence of anything, then don't say it, because anybody can sit down and say, I'm feeling a spirit here and I'm going to send it, and they're like, oh, I see a portal opening, oh, they're going, and then yeah, that's it. And it can be a bit of a placebo effect, but there's no evidence there. I'm always looking for evidence. And so I do think there's a power in being able to understand that from a medium's point of view, if I'm in a situation where I'm going to try and help a spirit over to the other side, I've got to realize, Rob, that it ain't me that's doing it, right? I'm just a conduit from the other side. I'm just a telephone, or I'm just going to be a radio receiver, and I'm going to let someone else do the work. So someone else on the other side, a spirit team, a spirit guide, they're the ones that are doing the hard work. I'm not. I'm just being the anchor and allowing it to operate through me. So these people that go in and say, I'm closing the portal, I'm doing this, and that's a little bit of their ego. It's not really true. It's a bit of mumbo jumbo. And so there has to be an evidential thing around it. There has to be a pattern of evidence that will prove that. And if phenomena stops after that, then obviously, the job's been done. But just realize, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't the medium that's doing it. It's the team that they work with on the other side. They're the ones that are doing it. We don't have the power to send them to the light. We can just ask for a spiritual intervention and allow that divine law to operate perfectly the way it should be. And the beings on the other side that can actually work through us to anchor that and and take that being over to the light. So we have to be very careful. We really have to be very careful what we claim.
Jock, I know that you're very interested in pursuing research into the afterlife. What do we have so far as proof of the afterlife when it comes to claims being made by people that they've gone to the other side, they have seen the light, they have gone through the tunnel? Is this real, or is this all hocus pocus?
Well, I very rarely ever spoke about this in the public, and a lot of people who claim they have NDEs sensationalize them, and we don't really have any evidence. There's a few people in the world that have actually had out-of-body experiences and has been tested scientifically, like Alex Tannis. He was a great person for that kind of thing as well. I recently interviewed in my own podcast Graham, I can't remember his second name, but he's been tested. But there's other people who have had NDEs and been able to verify the evidence. They've been in a hospital and they can verify evidence. I think we've got to take that seriously. You know, Dr. Sam Parnham's been doing some really great research on that side of things. But here's the thing, Rob. I've had an NDE and I never spoke about it. I was in a serious car accident before my wedding. And I survived that accident because I heard my father from the other side call my name. And what actually happened then is and I never came, it was written about in a magazine many years ago because of what happened, but I never went out and I never popularized it or anything I went through because I had no real evidence of my experience. And people's NDE experiences are very personal to them.
Yes.
But when I had that experience, my whole life changed, and my abilities and being psychic abilities and connecting to the other side, that got stronger. That was a lot. That changed, and I only really brought this to the fore recently as part of the research I was doing at university because I had to open up and talk about it. But my experiences were phenomenal. What I witnessed. I didn't see a massive tunnel of light or anything else, but I was connected to everything. There was a being that took me out of that accident at the time. I witnessed everything from above. The light that I seen that was everywhere and surrounded all around me, I knew that I was safe. The only thing that brought me back was knowing that my wife was in the car and I could see the truck driver that hit us. I could see everything. My father, I believe, was the one that called me. He'd passed years before, and so the voice that I heard was his voice that called my name that made me move and jump. Before I knew it, I was out of my body. I felt nothing from the accident because I was taken from my body, and I witnessed everything from above, and I was held in these divine arms, if you like. I was just safe, and there was a feeling of connected to everything. There was no separation from nothing. And that experience, I mean, there was a lot more to it, but that experience for my NDE was transformative in every way. But I had no evidence that I could come back other than certain things that happened and being able to verify what the lorry driver did and how the ambulance turned up with nobody actually phoning them because we were in the middle of nowhere in the Scottish mountains and it was snowing. It was all very weird, but it totally changed me. And I think those who have had transformational experiences through NDEs, it changes them in a profound way. And I think there's a lot more research that we need to do into the NDE experience. And we have to get to the point, we can't just accept everybody is saying they've had an NDE because you've got no proof of what I've had, and it's very personal to me. I kept it very quiet for many years.
There has to be more vetting of all the claims of the paranormal. You just can't take everything at face value anymore.
No, you can't, because you could have an NDE now and just make it up in your head and then tell me what. But there has to be some formal. We have to vet it because there's a lot of people that claim NDEs out there that are probably not real. But there's a lot of people that have, and it's transformed them in tremendous ways. And I think transformation is probably one of the key ingredients, I would say, that verifies maybe that experience.
Jock, we've got about 2 minutes left. First of all, thanks very much for coming on the show. Always a great pleasure talking to you and your family. The very best of the new year. But I'd like to hear your final thoughts, your wisdom that you'd like to share with the X-Zone Nation in the next minute and a half.
Oh, wow. I would say, okay, that everybody who is out there has all paranormal abilities inherent inside of them. And that I want you to think about the paranormal as something that's not external to you, but something that is part of you and needs to be integrated into your life more than feared or refuted. And maybe if you integrate this into your life as part of your normal makeup, maybe, just maybe, your life is going to change for the better. Because you have a divine power inherent within you that you probably don't even know how to use properly.
What's next for you, Jock? What are you going to be up to in the next little while?
Well, I've got loads of studying to do, loads of research to do. I'll be finishing my master's. I'll be moving on to PhD. I will be writing a new book, and I will be bringing out a new magazine called Parawise, which will distill the academic information to an easier format for the lay community to get their teeth into and understand.
You're going to be one busy man, and I want to thank you very much for joining us, Jock. Always a great pleasure. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you.
Connect with me on my website, jockbrocas.com or evidentialmedium.com, or get me on Instagram if you want to ask me a question. It's just @spiritualmedium, and that's probably the fastest place that I'll respond in.
Until the next time we meet, my friend, take care of yourself. And like I said, regards to you and the family, and a Happy New Year to you all.
And to you guys and to all your family, Rob. That was great being back on. I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
You got it, my friend. Take care of yourself, Jock.
God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless you too, pal. All right, X-Zone Nation, Jock Brocas has been my guest of this hour. Coming up on the other side of the news at the top of the hour, right here on the X-Zone, we're going to be talking more about the paranormal. My guest is Randall Smith, and Randall is in Huntington, Indiana. Wow, the paranormal. 2 hours every night, Monday through Friday, right here on Classic 1220. A place where people dare to believe, yep, and a place where people dare to be heard. That's what we're all about, and I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, streaming around the world on classic1220.ca.